Well, we've made it to another week of Goblin Slayer, let alone, like I said in the last episode, that animation I'm not a fan of compared to season one and the OVA movie. It was quite not necessarily that exciting, you know? It didn't hold the expectations I have for the series that is Goblin Slayer. Granted, I've never read the source material, I don't know exactly how everything goes and such, but man, that wizard boy, he's quite boring. If I'm gonna be honest with you, he's just that really annoying tropey character that you just want to freaking throw through a wall and then hope he never comes back. But we all know deep down inside, sadly, he's gotta come back, and he's here to stay for who knows how long. So we're just gonna get to terms with it and accept it and go along with the story. So without further ado, let's talk about this week, and then we'll delve into what I think about this episode afterwards, because this one was actually a pretty good one. So we start off, and obviously Priestess is ahead of this mission because that was what was decided in the last episode. So she is there, and they are checking out this camp, which is near the area of where these goblins were going to be found, because of the job that they sorted out. This is where the sightings have been and such. So, of course, the wizard boy is all freaking, how do I put this in a nicer term? He's trying to jump the gun consistently here on out through the whole mission, and that's going to be something that really drags the group down, and they're way too nice about it with him, honestly, in my opinion. But we'll get there. So we get to the camp, and the head guy that they're talking to, obviously asks if that's Beard Cutter, because it is, and then starts telling them kind of what's been going down throughout the camp here, and that they don't think that it's just goblins, but there is quite a few of whatever it is, and that at one point one of the guys got his tools stolen, because these guys are, like, from what I understand, blacksmiths and like forgers and stuff, and he tried chasing the goblin down. And of course the location that it's going to be at, which the dwarf shows him on the map, is a mausoleum. And a long time ago, Goblin Slayer mentions that, his sister always told him not to go to these mausoleums because, obviously kids go there and they get lost and they never come back. But obviously it's a different story now. He's an adult and there's goblins involved, and he wants to take care of that. So, of course, Priestess jumps in because technically this is her mission, so she's going to ask the questions, So, one question, would be, she wants to know what the party was that went down, and he tells her, and there was 2 females involved in this mission, of course, and that's the biggest concern going into these goblin missions, is because the women get, so while she's asking them, they're figuring all that out. Goblin Slayer and Lizard Man are over here pretty much talking about how, the traps are going to be, if there's going to be any hobgoblins or shamans, because there's no totems outside, so more than likely there won't be any shamans. However, it's really hard to say, so Archer's over there just kind of relaxing, and of course Wizard Boy's critiquing her, but she even mentions, obviously, that we all have jobs, a job. I'm a ranger and a scout, you're a wizard boy, we are not needed for this frontline, etc talk at the moment. And of course he doesn't like that, thinks it's lazy, but I digress. They get to the mausoleum, right? And it definitely looks like something that kids might want to play in, especially just being this huge circle dome with like a really cool stone outer, and it definitely, kids would be drawn to it, right? And so that's why Goblin Slayer even mentions, that's why I was told to stay back from them, because the dead bodies, disrespect, goblins, the works. So of course, Wizard Boy wants to hurry up and just jump right into the action, and excuse me, and just freaking go right in there. But of course, Priestess is like, no, let's not do that. It seems stupid. But of course, it's her first time, and she's nervous, and she's never been in charge before. But even the Lizard Man just kind of walks up to her and tells her that haste makes waste. And so they decide, you know what, screw it, let's just start getting in there. And they decide to go in rows of 2 that way, so it's easier to split up since there's 6 of them, 2 kind of like staggered lines. And so before they get in there, they get the pleasure of telling the lizard boy that they have to get rid of their scents, and now they got to cover themselves in goblin blood. And I'm assuming these 2 girls are the happiest things in the world about that, because both times, of course, goblin slayers had to tell one of the girls to cover in blood. Neither of them liked it, so it's finally their turn to be like, hey, guess what? It's your turn to get covered in blood. Just small little revenge things, And right after that, right after we get covered in blood, Goblin Slayer comes in with his nice ferocious red eye and starts counting the room out and just starts slaughtering them. And this is the first action we really get to see in the series so far with the new animation. And it's okay. It's alright. It's nothing to write home about, but I've seen worse. We'll go with that. So, Wizard Boy's trying to cast a spell from the back there while those 2 are fighting, and finally Priestess is like, do not do that yet, with an actual aggravated look in her eyes. Like, for once, she's actually growing some balls. It's just being like, no, you stop that, you dumb effer. So, they pretty much, get rid of the ones that are in there, and lock the other ones up in these rooms, right? Like, they pretty much just take these, like, wedges and shove them under each door so they can explore one at a time. And the Wizard Boy's, of course, whining about this fact that they're taking them one at a time and that somebody could easily be dying right now and everything. And it's like, well, dude, these guys literally hunt goblins. This is their damn job. Just leave it alone and let them do their thing. But they get to the store. There's a rope slinging from the top of it. Clearly a trap, right? Clearly a trap. But Lizard Man does give the alternative that they could go down the other way and go that way first. However, of course, Wizard Boy doesn't want to wait. So he just slams the door open because he doesn't believe that goblins can come up with traps. And you don't really get to see it, but it looks like some intestines and just bones of this human that fall down through where the rope was at. And of course, more than likely, his screams were the alarm for the goblins, and that's the trap. So now, we hear this chick just screaming, and Wizard Boy runs down the hallway without listening to anybody's, concern or logic or reason, period. Gets into the room, and there's a gal there tied with ropes and nails in her hands, and of course being just tortured by these goblins. And so he just lights that goblin on fire that's next to her, right? Just burns it to a crisp. But little does he realize that they also have a troll, and that goblins never come in one, and that was clearly a trap. So now he's on the ground, 1 goblin down, but you could easily see at least 20 goblins and a troll now. But before anything could really happen to him, Lizard Man and Goblin Slayer come in, and they slaughter the piss out of these things. And of course, Goblin Slayer asks if they're okay, and he says, yeah, but he's not talking about him. He's talking about the damn girl that's dead, or not dead, but, injured by the goblins, of course. So, now that they're fighting that off, Dwarf and little Wizard Boy pretty much just take the chair and they run out of there because there's no time to be freaking taking 10 nails out of her hands and checking on the situation. So Goblin Slayer slightly comes up with a plan, and what he has happened is he has Priestess do a holy light, right? And now that he's been holy light blinded, Goblin Slayer throws some oil on his face and torches him down, because obviously it's not a goblin, so Goblin Slayer's not a master at it, right? But he's trying, and luckily in this frenzied rampage, the trolls taking out goblins left and right, so that is one positive thing about the situation. But on the other side of the building, you've got everybody but Goblin Slayer and Lizard Man in this little smaller room, and of course Wizard Boy is whining that they're trapped and that, yada yada yada. And, Priestess is keeping pretty calm about the whole situation, and even the Wizard Boy has a flashback of the fact that she probably just shakes and prays to God when she's over here making sure that gal's healed and planning for what's next and what she's gonna need, and drinking mana potions. And right when this little wizard piece of crap's about to apologize to her, here comes Lizard Man, and Archer run down the hallway, right? And they still haven't killed the troll yet. So Goblin Slayer's like, look, here's what we're gonna do. Priestess uses holy light to blind this guy, right? Plus add some heat. And then while the heat's going on, that's Goblin Slayer. Dwarf Man himself adds rain from one of his spells. And then Goblin Slayer throws on, I think, stone powder. So that if you quickly cool down the heated stone, it can break. So all these like combinations on him is like turning his skin cracked and cold and weathered and shit, and freezing him. So now they just slaughter the piss out of him. Lizardman chops his arm off. Goblin Slayer just stabs him right in the head. And now they go to attack all of the goblins right after that. And of course, Wizard Boy has to have his opinion about the whole thing, and then the fact that, you know, he does mentally accept that it's his fault, but for some reason he refuses to acknowledge Goblin Slayer because all he does is hunt goblins, which is kind of sad and pathetic, but you know, whatever. He just saved your life, who cares, right? I hate that kid so much, oh my god. But anyways, and we get back to the guild, and you know, of course, Lizard Man wants his cheese covered sausage because the man's obsessed with cheese, and who can blame him? And you know, Priestess is a little sad about the whole thing, but even Archer's telling her, you know, you did a good job and you survived, and that's all that really matters. You made it on your first adventure alive, and that's a reason to celebrate, which is what Dwarf's telling the Wizard Boy, obviously, in the second half there, because obviously Priestess has gotten quite a few adventures now, but he's whining to himself, pretty much making excuses of the fact that if the troll wasn't there, he could have handled all those goblins. And, you know, that freaking Lizard Boy is talking about evolution, about how his people went from being four-legged swamp creatures to dragons to what he is now, out of nowhere, you know. And then, so, of course, you know, the Wizard Boy gets to talking about how people mocked his sister because she, you know, died from goblins, and we get a flashback to find out that it was that sorcerer that was in the party with Priestess, which, now you look at them side by side, totally makes sense, and I don't know why the fact that nobody noticed that. I mean, people probably have, I just haven't been reading forums, but I couldn't remember that far back. And so, obviously, Priestess is freaked out because she realizes who that is, because she got stabbed with a poison arrow. And yeah, so he passes out drunk, and Goblin Slayer realizes this is the exact same situation because his sister died from goblins. He knows exactly what this is like, and to the fact of the matter that, you know, technically Goblin Slayer was there to put her out of her pain, and it was a whole thing. So obviously he's feeling this really internally, and offers, you know, to pay for him to get a night room. It doesn't really matter where. So they find, you know, they're gonna go find him a room for the night. And so Goblin Slayer's coming out of the tavern, and Staff Boy, you know, was goofing off at first, but then realizes that something's probably wrong with Goblin Slayer, even though he's wearing that helmet. So, you know, they may not be close, but he can definitely tell when something's wrong. So they're decently somewhat acquainted. But, you know, Goblin Slayer kind of knocks it down a peg and goes to the back alley, and he takes his helmet off, right? And this is like the first time besides the end of season 1 we get to see anything really of that sort of nature. And he throws the helmet down, and he tells, you know, like, himself that he thinks that he's actually accomplished anything, but he calls himself a fool, and that's just the end of the episode. And it's actually quite, you know, like, heartbreaking, you know, the fact that he has tried to destroy goblins, so the same things wouldn't happen to, you know, other people and families and stuff, and just the fact that it happened to this boy. And the matter of the fact is that he was the one that, you know, got there too late in that situation. And it's really deep, and I really enjoyed this episode much more than the first episode, more or less for the storyline, not necessarily the action, because, sad to say it, but it's no longer White Fox, and I'm no longer going to enjoy the animation, but I damn as well I'm going to enjoy the damn story, so. But with that being said, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It means a lot to me, and if you really want to help the channel, hit that subscribe button. I upload 4 times a week. Sometimes I'm a little late, like this week, for instance, but I still do my uploads and I like to talk about this shit with y'all. So thank you for the opportunity to do that. But with that being said, it's been Squids, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.